Welcome to the Third and Central podcast, the only podcast dedicated solely to the University of Louisville baseball program. This is Matt Sefcovic, and as always, I am joined by Aaron Turner. Aaron, there's a lot going on University of Louisville campus right now. Today, Kenny Payne was fired, so we're looking for a new basketball coach. But most importantly, the Cardinal Nine are hot right now. We got a lot to catch up on since last we talked. But before we jump into that, how is everything going with you, Aaron?
It's going great. Can't complain. Louisville baseball, like you said, Louisville is hot. Gotta love it. Conference play right around the corner. College baseball in general has been a lot of fun this year. It's just been a really fun time to be a college baseball fan.
Yeah, you got that right. There's been a lot of really good games this year so far, and we're really just hitting conference play right now. But let's jump back to the Louisville side of things right now, because last time we talked was the evening that Louisville beat EKU, and at that point in time improved to 4-4 on the season. And we had a long discussion about kind of where we were at that point in time, which things weren't looking great, but they were improving from the first couple games. But now Louisville sits at 12-5 and 9-1 in the last 10 games, 12-1 in the last 13. You kind of made a statement that you would like to see Louisville win the rest of the non-conference games along the way before we got to the Virginia Tech series, and they fell just short of that. But obviously, there's losing one game in your last 13. There's no harm in that. Let's just kind of talk about that. First off, we swept Youngstown State, a team that we definitely should have swept. Youngstown State, they're definitely not known for their baseball program. They're 1-15 right now. Then we beat Morehead State. That was a thrashing. Northwestern, that was an interesting series. Won the first two games, and then the third game fell behind, and it was just kind of one of those lackluster games. Really couldn't get the offense going at all. But then about the ninth inning, we got the tying run to the plate. We couldn't do anything with it. Lost that game 6-3, but still won the series. And then had two, in my opinion, big wins over Lipscomb in the midweek, including the walk-off today by JT Benson. Louisville was down 5-0 early in that game and made a big comeback. It was a game that I think the last year's team probably doesn't come back and win this game. This is the type of game that we lost a lot last year. So to see them battle and just kind of chip away, the pitching staff, kept them in the game, gave up 5 runs in the first 2 innings, and then only gave up 2 in the final 8 because it went into extras. So to see them battle back and win a game like that against a good Lipscomb team, even though their record's 3-13, that's a solid squad. At the end of the year, those are going to be 2 good wins. Just kind of talk about the last series of games since we've talked. What are your thoughts now? How do you look at this team at 12-5 versus how you looked at this team when they were 4-4?
First, I would like to say that over the 2 years that you and I have been doing this, I think we have just come together and we now have one brain, because the amount of things that you have said in that spiel that I was thinking and I was going to say, you just took right out of my mouth. So not too much, not too much for me to elaborate on, honestly. Like you said, though, that's a game. We've had a number of games that last year's team does not win, that this year's team comes back and scratches and claws and finds a way to win those games. And I think that, over the first 4 games, compared to where we're at now, I think you have a team that was really struggling to find an identity and figure out who they are as a team. And that's really tough, especially when you're coming off of a year where you don't even make the ACC tournament, and you're at a school like Louisville where that's everybody knows that's unacceptable. So you go through those first 4 games, you're struggling to find your identity. You find an identity now as a team who will keep punching you in the mouth no matter what the score is. Fighting for the last out. It's been a lot of fun the last 2.5 weeks or so. Those 9 games were a lot of fun. And you and I talked a lot about Lipscomb. For whatever reason, Lipscomb has had our number for the last couple of years. And so, for us to pick up two quality wins over a team that's always been a little bit pesky at home for us is huge. And I think that's the perfect way to get the conference slate started.
Yeah, and that Lipscomb team, I want to go back to my comments about them. Their their record right now isn't great. Like I said, they're 3-13, but they've played a series against Xavier, who's got a top 35 RPI. They played a series in Lexington against Kentucky, and just were not competitive at all. Then they went down to Alabama, played a series down there. They played two back-to-back games against Louisville midweek. So they've had a tough schedule. They haven't had an easy go at it, but that's a good baseball team. Last year they won their conference. They went to a regional. They returned a lot of their offensive players this year, but their biggest issue is they lost a lot of their pitching, including all three of their weekend guys. Last I looked the other day, they had a team ERA of around 9 or 10, which that's not going to win you many baseball games when you're playing, teams like Alabama and Kentucky and Louisville. Like you're just not going to win a lot of games at that level with the elevated ERA. But that's a good baseball team, and I think when it's all said and done, we're going to see those as two big wins. I do want to talk about the schedule a little bit because Dan's talked about this recently. We talked about the makeup of a schedule. He plays a couple tough games early. We had Indiana State, Connecticut, and South Florida, which was canceled because of weather. But you schedule a couple tournament teams to begin the season, and then you come home for a long home stretch, and you play some teams that are ranked in the top 100 in the 200s to get yourself some confidence, get some guys on the field in positions and let them move around, get some freshmen out there, get some of your transfers in there and let them get a feel for playing with each other. That's the idea behind playing the schedule that he played. And then you ramp up. We're about to begin ACC play. So, okay, we bring in a Big Ten opponent, not as good as what we're going to see opening weekend in the ACC, but you bring in a solid Power 5 opponent, play them for a series, and then play a couple tough games against a Lipscomb team. So the schedule is very intentional, ramping up to ACC play. And Dan has alluded to that. And I think what he's done is he's got this team battle tested and ready to go into what is going to be a really, really fun slate in the ACC this year because the talent and some of the games, and we'll talk about a little bit later, some of the games that we've seen so far, this talent or this conference is going to be loaded.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, just
ahead.
thinking about that Northwestern series. One thing that I couldn't wrap my head around with Northwestern is 4 head coaches in 4 years. That's something that continues to blow my mind, even a few days removed from that weekend series. That's a team that I don't know how you continue to put a decent product out there with four coaches in 4 years, but kudos to Northwestern. They were a pesky opponent for us. And hopefully they got a good coaching staff in there that'll stick around because I think the future might be bright for the Wildcats.
You talked about Northwestern and where they're located in Chicago. There's a lot of talent around there that fortunately Louisville has been able to go in there and pluck away and bring a lot of that down here to play for our program. But if you could get a coach in there and get some continuity, I think not that Northwestern is known for their baseball history, but you wouldn't have to leave your backyard to do any recruiting there. So if you could get somebody in there that had a little bit of success, I think they would probably see some turnaround that would not take long at all to get that program up and running.
For sure.
So let's go ahead and talk about kind of who we are most impressed about this season. And I'll go ahead and take this first one. I'll take my MVP of the season so far. I'm going to take a freshman, and I'm going to take Lucas Moore, who has kind of been all over the place and just wreaks havoc when he's out on the field. Defensively, he's made a couple mistakes. He's aggressive, which I like, which Coach McDonnell, that's his style. He loves that. and to have an outfielder that takes chances on balls, that's good in certain situations. But at the plate, man, he's batting 426 right now, and he's 12 for 15 on stolen bases. And I looked the other day, I don't know where he is now because there's been some other games going on, but he was around first, second, or third in the conference in stolen bases. We talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. For a freshman to come into this program and really start from day one, that's not something that happens very often in a Dan McDonnell program because this is a developmental program. He talks about that quite a bit. Guys typically have to come in here and wait their turn and earn their stripes. But for a guy like Lucas Moore to come in and earn innings from the first game in an outfield that was very, very crowded when the season started with JT Benson, Eddie King Jr., and Isaac Humphrey, the fact that he is starting basically every single day or playing basically every single day is really impressive. And to go along with batting 426, he's got 3 doubles, a triple, and 12 RBIs to go with his 12 stolen bases. So far, I think the energy that he brings to the team on the base paths, I think his speed in the outfield, the amount of ground that he can cover. So far, I think he's the biggest surprise to me, and I would give him my MVP at this point in the season.
I like it. I'm a big fan of Lucas Moore. Definitely on the Lucas Moore train. But for my MVP award through non-conference play, I'm going to go with Gavin Keelan. And you can't say enough about Gavin Keelan right now. He's the only player in the lineup who has not only played in every game, but he's also started every game as well. He will most likely be the only guy all year to start every game. I think that he's pretty locked in at shortstop and will be barring any injury. The biggest thing for me is the power surge. You know what you're getting in Gavin Keelan. You're gonna get a guy who definitely can swing the bat a little bit, and he's an elite defender, but he seemingly added a little bit of a power tool, and it kind of came out of nowhere. He's now got 4 home runs, his first 4 career home runs over a 5-game span. He's also got 8 doubles and 2 triples to go along with it in the extra base category. He's hitting 373, playing elite defense at shortstop. This is a guy that you can pencil in to the middle of the order every single day, and for Louisville to be successful come conference play, I think that it's gonna come and go with Gavin Keelan. It's a guy that we need to continue to step up, and I absolutely love that we've got a sophomore that we can put in there, and an underclassman who is going to step up and be a little bit of a team leader, and that's exactly what you want in a shortstop.
If you're going to refer to Gavin Keelan from now on, I'm going to need you to refer to him as power hitter Gavin Keelan, because what he has done over the past really just week, honestly, when all this power surge happened, has been super impressive. I mean, 5'11", 180. He doesn't have a big frame, but that just kind of goes to show that it doesn't take a big guy to hit the ball over the fence, because Gavin has done that. And just, I mean, we've talked about it often over the past week. If we're going to get that kind of production out of Gavin from the middle bottom part of the lineup, like it's going to be a scary lineup that we can put out there, because that's not something that we expected to have, but it's something that was very much needed for this team. Not Gavin per se, but one of the question marks that we talked about going into this season was, where's the power going to come from? We just didn't have a lot of home runs last year. Last year was the first season that Dan McDonnell's team, since he's been at Louisville, has given up more home runs than they've hit. So where was that power going to come from? And the fact that Keelan's got 4 through the first 17 games is not something I had on my bingo card, but I'm here for it.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of getting off the topic a little bit here. It's it was very interesting to see how he, like you said, how he steps up and starts hitting home runs. But not only Gavin, but seeing everybody else find their power stroke a little bit too. You got Ryan McCoy right now, who's caught fire a little bit. He's up to 5 home runs with the team lead. Isaac Humphries caught fire. He's hit a few out as well. You got Luke Napleton. So not only are we hitting home runs now, which was a big issue over the first 4 or 5 games. Uh, it's coming from seemingly everywhere in the lineup, which was, like you said, not something that we expected. You don't originally didn't think that anybody 1 through 9 could put one out, but I think anybody can pop one at any given time, and of course that's going to change during conference play. And a little side note on that too. I think Alex Alisea has really been trying to get in on the fun down there in the 9 hole lately. He's hit a few. I'm like, oh, that might have a chance off the bat, but not quite. He's gonna get a few too. Just wait for it. But it's super exciting to see everybody just kind of step up and find that power stroke, and hopefully we can keep it rolling into ACC play.
Yeah, the fact that we've got 26 home runs already versus what we kind of anticipated going into the season, because we really didn't have anybody outside of McCoy that we thought was going to be a major home run threat. You've got Logan Beard, who is going to hit some. You've got Isaac Humphrey, who we knew was going to hit some, along with JT Benson. But we really didn't have any other guys that we thought could be, in my opinion, like a double-digit home run guy. But McCoy hit one today that should have counted for 2 home runs, as far as he hit it. But he, when that guy gets a hold of a ball, my gosh, just watch out, because he hit one over the scoreboard yesterday and hit one off the batter's eye today. And when he gets a hold of it, the ball just pops off of his bat.
Oh yeah, and that he's super fun to watch. You love the strikeouts to come down a little bit, and he's definitely worked on that from last season too. I'm liking where Ryan McCoy is at right now going into conference play. I think he's pretty firmly locked in on first, which that was kind of a question coming into the season too, was who's going to come in and take first, because you've got Ryan McCoy there, who's your natural first baseman, but you've also got 4 catchers too, who could also make a case to go and play first base. So it's good to see McCoy step up a little bit and take charge there too.
Yeah, I think watching McCoy progress over there at first, he's made a couple errors this season, but if he's going to be our, one of our long ball threats and hit the ball, he's been hitting the ball better this year than I kind of anticipated too. I mean, he's hitting 340 right now. I mean, I don't know what more we can ask from him. So if he keeps that up, this is going to be a fun lineup if we've got guys like Ryan McCoy hitting 340.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and flip the script from offense, which we'll get back to here in a little bit, I'm sure. Let's go over to the pitching mound. Who is your most valuable pitcher so far through these 17 games?
Give me Evan Webster for my MV pitcher. That's something I was not expecting to say through conference play. I love Evan Webster, but this is not a position that I think, I don't think anybody on the outside of the program saw Webster being in this position. He's now, the Saturday guy, it seems like. And, there was a time where I was questioning, is he going to continue to be in that starter role? He goes 4 innings in his first couple outings. It's just needing to get through to the bullpen, and now he's gone 6 innings in his last 2 outings. So now you're thinking, okay, maybe this could be a little bit more of a long-term thing. And why wouldn't it be? Through 4 starts on the mound, he's got a 0.9 ERA. He's somebody that you can run out there for 5 or 6 innings now, and he just fills up the zone, throws a lot of strikes, gets a lot of weak contact. The strikeout pitch isn't always there, but whenever you're throwing like he is, I'm not overly concerned about the strikeouts. He's got 18 strikeouts over 20 innings pitched, so he's going to rack up his strikeouts too. He's only walked 4 guys. He's going to fill up the zone, and you know exactly what you're getting out of him every time. And that's kind of what I love about Evan Webster right now, is just that consistency. And I love Sebastian Gongora too. That's definitely one of my guys. And for everybody that listens frequently and knows I'm a pro ball nerd, he's gonna be a very good pro. But right now, I think that Evan Webster is holding down that rotation, and it's also refreshing to see multiple guys step up in the rotation right now, especially over the last couple of years. You don't really think of our rotations as being Louisville-esque rotations. So now that we've got multiple guys who are capable of running out there and and turning in quality starts every time that they go out there. And being led by Evan Webster is a great sight to see.
I think you bring up a good point with Evan Webster, and I knew you were going to pick Webster, so I chose someone different, which I'll talk about here in just a second. But Webster deserves his flowers, so I think we need to give those to him because, when we found out that he was going to be in the weekend rotation this year, me, you, I think a lot of people thought that, oh, he'll just be there until everyone else is healthy, and then he'll move back to the bullpen role that we saw him fill the last couple of years, and that was the role that he was kind of like a utility pitcher. We'd put him in if we needed one out. We'd put him in if we needed a save. We'd put him in, if we were in tied game in the sixth. So, we could put him in nearly any situation, and he was very, very valuable. I mean, having a pitcher like that you can rely on to bridge the gap between your starter and your closer, there's really no price tag to put on that. So I thought he would transition from his starting role back to that once everybody was healthy. But I mean, the numbers he's putting up right now, I don't think you can make an argument to take him out of that spot. I mean, he, like you said, he's kind of the anchor of the weekend rotation right now. A 0.9 ERA through 4 starts. I mean, and like you said, he's not a high strikeout guy, but he pitches away from contact, and guys just really don't barrel any balls up on him. They haven't this year. So, obviously the talent's going to take a big uptick this weekend against Virginia Tech. But from what we've seen so far out of Webster, I just don't see how you take him out of the rotation. At this point in time, he is a weekend rotation guy until something drastically changes, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I mean I 100% agree. And as of right now, he stands as fourth in the conference in ERA. I mean, it really does not get much better than what Evan Webster is doing. And I think when it all evens out, I think Gongora is going to be up there in that conversation too. I think Forbes has the stuff to be up there. I have yet to see it really click with him. 100%. I think that he absolutely can be, in that top 10 conversation in the conference. I love the velocity up on Forbes right now. I love his off-speed stuff. Just looking to see a little bit more command out of him. Would love to see him go deeper into games. And I know he's battled a couple injuries as of late, and also missed Sunday due to food poisoning. So just waiting for everything with his body to get right too before everything can get right on the mound. But just those three in the weekend rotation plus Liggett as of now as the midweek guy, that's a very, very strong group of four. And it's also kind of relieving to know that if any one of those four go down, you've got somebody of the likes of like Will Koger or Parker Devers who can come out and start a game too, who have both looked really good at different times this season.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and transition over to who I would pick right now as my most valuable pitcher. And I'm going to pick two guys. I told you this a little bit ago because I think they've both been extremely valuable in their own way, and that's freshman Ty Stark and Justin West. Who Justin West is, I guess, almost a freshman himself, anyways, because he only threw one inning last year before he went down with an injury. But Ty Stark, freshman out of St. X, he's made 5 appearances, thrown 7 and a third, and has yet to give up an earned run, only given up 5 hits, and he's struck out 6 batters. And I think we're just now scratching the surface of Ty Stark. And I think you and I have talked about Ty quite a bit, and I think you are extremely high on him and his future. I think he's probably a potential future weekend rotation guy at Louisville. I don't know if you agree with that, but I do think he's an option to be a weekend rotation guy in the future. And I think the same with Justin West. West, he's made 3 appearances this year, thrown 8 innings, and he has only given up 1 earned run and struck out 8 in those 8 innings. And West is a guy we probably would have seen him a little bit more, but he missed his high school senior season due to Tommy John, and then he came here for a year and hurt his arm in the first inning that he pitched last year in 2023. So they're probably easing him back into things a little bit. That's probably why we've only seen him throw just the 3 appearances we've seen. But they've thrown him for 8 innings. So I think the fact that the staff has thrown him out this early. I think it shows that they're going to rely on him, and they know he's got a lot of potential. I think he's also another guy that has weekend rotation talent written all over him at Louisville. Now I say that, but you also look down the lineup and you see guys like Parker Detmers, and you see the Patrick Forbes, and you see the other guys, Colton Hartman. There's so many guys on this lineup that have weekend type talent here. But those two guys, I think having them come out of the bullpen and be young, reliable arms from something that we didn't have last year, that's why I think those two guys are the most valuable to me so far.
I think you hit the nail on the head with both of those. I think that that both West and Stark absolutely have, futures as weekend rotation guys. When I think about Justin West, I always go back to, I think it was our season preview last year. We tabbed him as a, future All-American guy. Like someday you were going to look out at the right field wall and see Justin West's photo up there. And he has that stuff. I really do think that he has that stuff. He's not going to blow you away with the fastball. Um, but the kid knows how to pitch. He's just like Evan Webster to me. They know how to pitch. They know how to generate a lot of weak contact. They're going to get you a lot of outs. I do think that Justin West definitely has a future in the weekend rotation. As for Ty Stark, I think that he's very close to being there as well. My big thing on Stark is Ty, if you're listening, go eat a sandwich, go eat two or three or four. Just put some weight on. But I love the kid. I love the stuff that I see out of him. I love his, just the whippy action from the left side, having a tall, deceptive lefty like that they can just sling it through the zone. I love guys like that. So to have that weapon in the bullpen, it's pretty fun to have him out there. And knowing that we're going to have a number of freshmen who are going to be big contributors out of the bullpen as we go into conference play, going up against these power teams like your Wake Forest, we got Virginia Tech this weekend. Knowing that Ty Stark is going to be in the mix is pretty fun, and just another recruiting win for Dan and his staff.
One other name that I do want to talk about, and we've talked about him a lot in the past, is Will Koger. He kind of struggled to start the season, and he's taken some bumps in the road since he's been here at Louisville. But the draft boards still continue to love Will, and he's got all the talent in the world. But he's like I said, he's had some bumps in the road. But this Tuesday against Lipscomb, he came in. They had scored 7 runs in the first 5 innings. We bring Koger in. He shuts them down for the final 4. He throws a 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Not only does he not allow a run in those 4 innings, they didn't get a single hit off of him, and he struck out 2 batters. If we can get that type of performance from Koger, can't expect that every time he takes the mound, but if he can be competitive like he was the other day, I think he touched 96. I mean, his velocity is significantly up from when he got here. But if he can have that kind of outing on a regular basis in ACC play, that's just another option that we have in the bullpen. And I think Will Koger has all the talent in the world. Super excited to see what he did the other night against Lipscomb. And I hope that carries over this weekend because we will see him against Virginia Tech at some point.
Yeah, I think it absolutely will. Got very high hopes for Will. We'll always have high hopes for Will. So hopefully that was a turning point for him. We talked about his struggles, but I think that it all clicked for him right there. So let's talk about, time out here for a second. I botched up the script when I saw so you read off the MVP and MVP pitcher. I was not thinking that we tied in the outlook for the season and with the um how we got here type thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you read off that first one, I was like, oh shoot, yeah, I was not thinking there. So
No, you're good.
all right. So you just want to flip. I'll
You want to
take
go
the I'll take
outlook on the
the
conference?
yeah,
Okay.
and then you take the clarity
I'll
on
take the
lineup
next one.
rotation, and then I'll take the last one.
Yeah. That'll
All right,
work.
cool.
Yeah,
All right,
perfect.
sounds good. Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about how we got here and what we're looking forward to, let's take a look into conference play. We're starting this weekend against Virginia Tech. Not the Virginia Tech that we've seen in the last couple of years, but still a very good program. What's your outlook on conference play? What excites you about this team as we go into conference play? And kind of on the flip side of that, what kind of worries you as we go into conference action?
I think this is going to be a loaded conference this year. We've seen that most of the conference already started playing conference ball last weekend. Louisville's one of the teams, along with Florida State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech, that have not played. They're the only four teams so far that haven't. And North Carolina State is 3-0 in the Atlantic Division right now. They came out hot. Wake dropped a couple games at Duke. If you didn't watch that series against Wake and Duke, you really missed out on two of the premier programs in the entire country. Watching those two teams play a 3-game series against each other was something else. I mean, you had a couple of the best pitching staffs in the country. Definitely, probably the top two programs in the conference this year going at it. But I think what worries me the most about the ACC this year is really just the depth from top to bottom. Louisville is you really can't take a weekend off in this conference. Even teams who we didn't think were going to be great. Let's take Pitt for example. They lost 3 games last weekend, but they're 9-4 to start the season. So they were 9-1 before conference play started. So I think, and the ACC is always this year, but you're really not going to be able to say, okay, we're going into X series this weekend and we need to sweep this team because we know we've got Wake Forest next weekend, and you hope you get one from them. There's not going to be many situations this year where you can really, not that you can ever rely on a sweep, but that you can hope to sweep a team in conference play. So I think the depth is the biggest thing that I don't want to say concerns me, because as a baseball fan, I'm excited about that, right? Like I love watching us compete and play other good teams. And when you go to games at Jim Patterson Stadium, the better teams that come in, the better the crowds are, the more pumped up the team is. So it's exciting to see that. But I mean, you got to have that light switch on for 30 games. I mean, you can't turn it off.
Yeah, I mean, I want to throw in a little side note there too. Pitt's early season schedule was very competitive. They went out to Vegas and took the tournament out there. Can't remember who it was off the top of my head that they beat, but I know it was, a couple quality wins that they picked up out there. And then they played a very competitive series against North Carolina this weekend. It was, all 3 games were close. That is not the Pitt that we have seen in recent years. I think that they might have turned a corner too. So like you said, I think that depth is something that is exciting, but it's definitely a little bit concerning. For me, I think that there's a lot of little things that need to clean themselves up. I think that, Dan McDonnell team is always going to be aggressive on the base paths. I think we've seen a lot of instances so far where we might have been a little bit too aggressive. I think this past game against Lipscomb was a lot of that early on in the game. And that's something that will probably, you hope, would clean itself up as we go into conference play, knowing that it means just a little bit more. You're probably not going to take as many chances as we have to this point. But we need to clean it up on the base paths a little bit. We've had a strange amount of guys picked off base too. That absolutely cannot happen as we get into conference play. And then just the errors. We've seen an uncharacteristic amount of errors so far through the non-conference slate. You can attribute that to a couple different things. You got guys playing positions that they're might not normally be accustomed to, but Dan McDonnell always prides himself on the defense. So, hopefully that'll clean itself up too. I'm confident that it will. It doesn't overly concern me, but it's something that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on this weekend as we play Tech.
I do want to circle back on one thing about Pitt. like we're talking about, that's a good team this year, but Louisville doesn't. We don't play them this year. That's one of the teams that you probably could circle on the calendar that you're like, okay, good team, but of the conference, that's a team that we could beat. But I was just throwing that example out there, but we don't even play them. So that's a kind of a detriment to us. One other thing I want to talk about, you talked about errors with this team, and the game today against Lipscomb, Ryan McCoy made an error, and Dan McDonnell could not have gotten from the dugout to the mound any faster. He typically does not come out to the mound unless he's going to make a pitching change. And I've never seen him get from the dugout to the mound that fast over an error and not make a pitching change. And that just goes to show, I think, right there, just how important defense is to him and how much pride he takes in, making the right plays and taking care of the baseball. And the fact that he came out and used one of his visits on an error that we made in the field is that I think that just shows that's his baby. Defense is his thing. And when they don't play clean baseball, that's a reflection of him. And that's why he walked out to the mound at about 40 mile an hour today.
That's when I texted you during the game and said Dan was moving and put moving in all caps. He was not messing around there.
Yeah, he was straight getting after it. One thing I do want to talk about, since we're talking about ACC play, is Virginia Tech. Obviously, that's who we've got this weekend. Right now, Virginia Tech is 12-3. They're 9-1 in their last 10 with an RPI currently of 20. And this team is absolutely destroying the baseball right now. They swept Notre Dame last weekend. They won 11-3, 10-5, and 11-8. And in their midweek this week, they played Marist, and in that game, they won 20-2. So just in the last 4 games, they have scored 52 runs. So obviously, I like to think that our pitching staff is better than Notre Dame and Marist, but that's not to discredit what Virginia Tech's offense can do. I think our pitchers are going to have to come ready to play. I think they're going to have to hit their spots, and our defense, like you said, like you just talked about, our defense is not going to be able to give any free runs away because this team is going to make us pay if we make mistakes in the field. So Virginia Tech, they've kind of come out of nowhere out of the past couple of years. They were a program that you really never heard much out of in baseball. But all of a sudden, they've been producing a lot of talent, and they've been fun to watch because their style is to just hit the baseball, and they do a lot of that. So I think it really could shape up to be a really exciting series because you've got 2 teams that can score a lot of runs. So if you like offense, Jim Patterson Stadium is probably the place to be this weekend.
I mean, that's kind of the what we talked about would be the Tech style of baseball this year. That team will go as far as their arms can hold up. The pitching is definitely a little suspect for Tech, and hopefully we can shut down the Tech bats this weekend. Like you said, hopefully be a little bit better than the Marist pitching staff. No disrespect to Marist, that's just the way it is. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be an awesome series. And now that we're kind of back on it, we talked about what might worry us going into ACC action. What excites you as we look to the ACC conference or the schedule ahead?
I think the biggest thing to me, like I talked about, is just the quality and the depth of the league. Getting to see good baseball weekend in, weekend out in conference play. But I think most importantly, not only just the conference itself, but to kind of see where Louisville stands within this conference. Last year we missed the conference tournament for the first time since joining the league. So I think just getting back out there against some of the best players in the country, which is the ACC, and just kind of getting that measuring stick to see where we are and who we are. Like, we lost the first 4 games of the season, bounced back. We're 12-5. We're riding high right now. But okay, let's go play the big boys. Let's go see how we stack up against some of the best teams in the country, because Virginia Tech, they're 12-3 and they're RPI top 20. But guess what happens the following weekend? We go down to Wake Forest, and that three-headed monster they've got in their weekend rotation is just nasty. We've seen it time and time again. So I think it's just exciting to see kind of where we are as a program and the trajectory of what this season is going to look like playing two really good teams out of the gate.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And for those of you, like I said earlier, for you repeat listeners, you all know that I'm a draft nerd, love the prospects, and the ACC this year is loaded top to bottom with a lot of really fun draft prospects. Not only that, but I'm a big pitching nerd too. So I've had the Wake Forest series scheduled or circled on my calendar for a while. Looking at like you said, the three-headed monster of Hartle, Burns, and Massey is just incredible. It's so much fun to watch them go to work. If you're ever not watching Louisville baseball and have a craving to watch some baseball, go tune in to literally anybody in the ACC, but especially a Wake Forest game because those guys know how to pitch. With that being said, though, we've seen them get beat. Especially that Friday night game against Duke. Hartle was not on, gave up a lot of runs, and he gave up a lot of runs early. So Duke definitely, figured him out and got to him early, and that's exactly how you got to get him. You got to get him early, get him before he can settle down and lock in. But that's going to be a very, very exciting series for everybody.
I do want to talk about one of the biggest robberies that's going on right now in college baseball, and that is how in the hell is Florida State not ranked? Like, what is going on with this? Right now, Florida State is 15-0. They're seventh in the RPI. They're unbeaten. They beat Florida. I don't know what else they need to do. I haven't always been a Link Jarrett fan. Well, let me take that back. I didn't like Link Jarrett because he was at Notre Dame, and I don't like Notre Dame. So now that he's at Florida State, maybe I do like Link Jarrett. But that to be said, I just don't understand how you don't rank that team. Sure, they haven't played the toughest schedule, but they've played Illinois, they've played Michigan State, they've beat Florida. I guess that was before the newest rankings came out. But any team that's 15-0 and you've got a 7 RPI, surely you can find somewhere in the top 25 to put them. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
For those of you who are active in the college baseball Twitter sphere, if you follow D1 baseball, follow Kendall Rogers. Those are great follows. Kendall Rogers definitely hates Florida State. He'll tell you straight up he hates Florida State. He's always hating people's favorite teams. Um, yeah, I've seen I've seen a lot of FSU fans on Kendall's case over the last week or so about that, and they were definitely making some noise last night after the win over Florida. So I definitely think that they have a ranking in their very near future, though.
I do want to say, since we've kind of been talking about numbers a little bit and RPI and strength of schedule, all that good stuff. So right now, Louisville has a RPI of 215. That's a fluid situation. So just they're around a little outside the 200. It changes hour by hour. But right now, they're currently 215 with a strength of schedule at 277. Not great. Like, I mean, I'm no statistician, but I can look at those numbers and tell you that they're not where that you want them to be. But if you kind of look up at the makeup of the schedule and our strength of schedule comes into factor, and those numbers are going to improve. As soon as you play 3 games against Virginia Tech, you're going to see both of those numbers take a big leap. A big part of RPI, I don't agree with the RPI. We can talk about that till we're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, the selection committee uses it. So if they use it, we got to talk about it. It's one of the metrics they use. So it is what it is. Part of the RPI is the teams that you've played, how they performed in games outside of the games that you played them in, right? Well, Youngstown State is 1-15. EKU is 2-15, and St. Bonaventure is 4-10. So those couple weekend series plus the EKU game aren't doing Louisville any favors whatsoever at all. So we just got to hope that those couple teams win some baseball games at some point this season, and that will help Louisville out significantly. But at this point in time, like I said, they stand at a RPI of 215 and a strength of schedule at 277. I'm not anxious about that. I don't get worried about that at this point in the season. Aaron, do you put any more into that than I do?
Absolutely not. I right now that's a number that I have not even looked up.
Look, listen, I look at the RPI about every 30 minutes. So I love it, but it doesn't make any sense to me. But I still just love it because I want it to always, I just want to see it improve. But that's one of those numbers that it works itself out. Like when you start looking at where everybody's ranked right now, it kind of fixes itself, or it doesn't. I mean, if you don't win baseball games, it doesn't fix itself and it doesn't matter anyways. But as the season goes on, those numbers will kind of just flatten out where they should be. So just want to kind of jump over. We talked about this at length in our last episode, kind of about our lineup. If we had to win a game right now, who would your lineup be? Since we've had that conversation and since we've seen the last couple of weeks play out, do you have any changes into what you said your lineup or rotation would be then versus now?
I think I would make a couple changes. Um, I would find a spot for Michael Lippy in there. Michael Lippy's probably my DH. Good call on that one. You had me beat by about a week and a half. So hat tip to you, sir. I also think I had Eddie King over Isaac Humphrey and right. Oh, you know as well as anybody, I'm probably the biggest Eddie King Jr. fan that's ever been. Maybe just his mom has me beat, but other than Mrs. King, I think that I'm probably the number one Eddie King Jr. fan. But the way Isaac's been swinging it right now, I got to put Isaac Humphrey in right field, which would move King down to my fourth outfield spot and put Lippy in my DH spot. I think those are the changes that I would make. I think we also talked at length about the Alisea versus Hoy debate. Seems like it might have solved itself, you know, over the last few days, a couple days. We saw Hoy come back yesterday in game one against Lipscomb. He started both games in the midweek, hit pretty well, and we saw him move over to third base too. So we know there's a little bit of versatility in there. I think that the way it stands right now, Hoy's probably your starting second baseman. And when you need an upgrade on defense late in games, you might shift Hoy over to third and pull one of Beard or Anderson, whoever might be there, and plug Alisea in at second. But with the return of Hoy back from the hamstring injury, I think unfortunately as fun as he has been, I think Alisea's playing time has taken a massive hit.
Yeah, I agree with you spot on. I think the two positions in question are the outfield. And I think you're spot on with probably seeing Benson, Moore, and Humphrey in the outfield and Lippy in a DH role. I think I had him actually Lippy in right field. I think DH is probably a better spot for him at this moment. You're going to see Zion Rose obviously in the DH role as well. We've seen that from time to time, but he's kind of playing here and there, just as a more of a load management type thing. But I think the biggest question mark, and you hit the nail on the head with it, is second base. What do you do with Alisea and Dylan Hoy? I mean, going into the season, we knew that Alisea was a really, really good defensive second baseman, and he was the future second baseman for this program. And Dylan Hoy is going to be the starter this year. But when Hoy goes down, and then Alisea steps in and he's batting 350, a couple four doubles, a triple, solid defense. It complicates things a little bit because all of a sudden now you've got a guy that really, as a freshman, should probably be on the field. But you've got Dylan Hoy, who's a senior transfer, who he should probably be on the field as well. And he was probably told when he transferred here as a grad transfer that, hey, this is your position to lose, and he hasn't done anything to lose it. I mean, he got hurt. You can't blame the guy for getting hurt. So I think that is going to be the biggest question mark to me. And right now, I think it is clear as mud. But the good thing is we have options. And if something happens or somebody gets hurt or somebody needs a break because it's a long season, we've got options. And like you said, the versatility of moving Hoy around the infield, that definitely plays a factor as well. Even though you've got Brandon Anderson, who is just tearing the cover off the ball right now, who's taken over for Beard at third. But just the fact that we've got the versatility and the options to move some of these guys around the infield is going to make Dan McDonnell's job a lot easier this season.
Now that I'm thinking back to that last episode, I don't think I had Ryan McCoy at first base. I think I put Matt Klein there for my pick, and I definitely think that Ryan McCoy is now he's pretty locked in at first base moving into conference play. Which now you have the question, Luke Napleton versus Matt Klein. Both have swung the bat pretty well. Klein has been, unbelievable with the bat. Just he's an on-base machine. You get a little bit more power from Napleton. The right-handed swing of Napleton versus the left-handed swing of Klein might, sway things one way or another. Over who you put in there. It's going to be interesting to see, who gets reps behind the plate because you've got Klein and you have Napleton, but you also have Will Veerling. You got Zion Rose, who could see some reps back there this year. I'm not 100% positive that he will. Like you said, it just seems to be a load management thing with him right now, even at the DH position. But we've got a very interesting mix of catchers, so it's definitely a good problem to have. I don't want to be Dan McDonnell making the lineup decisions, because I wouldn't know how I would do it. And not only that, but think about the bullpen. I think that there's a lot of question marks in the bullpen right now. We haven't really seen any games where we've needed a closer. Who gets the reps at closer? Coming into the season, we thought that it would be Patrick Forbes. Now you got Forbes, who is pretty locked in as your Sunday starter, it seems like. So where do you go from there? You go with Caleb Corbett's looked pretty solid at times out of the pen. Will Koger, does he get shots to close games in conference play? Is it Jake Caraba? You know, I think right now the biggest question mark for me is just rolls out of the bullpen, and I think that's kind of the nature of the beast when you schedule games like we have early in the season. You don't really get to run guys out there, how you would run them out during conference play. So I think that there's just a lot up in the air when it comes to the arms out of the pen.
No, I think that's another good point you bring up, and it's funny you say that about we haven't needed a closer because we have 2 saves this season. That's it. We've won 12 games and we've only got 2 saves, so we really haven't been in situations where we've needed that. We've come from behind a couple times, which it's been really good to see the fight from this team and them claw back. But I think that's a really really valid point, and I think having that experience of having putting somebody on the mound in the bottom of the ninth or top of the ninth with a 1-run lead and tossing the ball to insert whichever guy you pick and tell him to go get 3 outs. We haven't had to do that often. So who is it going to be? And at this point in time, I don't know what the answer is. If Will Koger can throw the way he did against Lipscomb the other night, I think Koger is a damn good candidate to do that. I've always personally, it's not going to happen, but I've always liked Patrick Forbes as a closer. Obviously, he's in the weekend rotation, so that he's not going to do both. So I think it'll be curious to see once we get into conference play and who the back end guy is going to be that we can rely on a Friday night when we need 3 outs in the ninth inning.
So let me put you on the spot here. We got a 1-run lead on Saturday night against Virginia Tech. Who are you giving the ball to?
And you're saying everyone's available.
Yeah, the bullpen as it is right now. Everybody is available. Who's that guy?
You did put me on the spot. I think because I gave him the MVP, I think I would go with Ty Stark at this point in time. I think he's been reliable. I know he's young, he's a freshman, but put him out there and let him see what he's got. So far this season, we've been able to rely on him, and he's gotten outs every time they've thrown the ball to him. So I think put him in that situation and see how he responds.
That's a very interesting pick. That's something historically I don't think we've seen from Dan. I don't think that he runs freshman closers out there too often. We saw it with Caleb Corbett a few years ago.
Mhm.
He I to my as far as I can think right now on the spot, he's the lone guy I can think of. I'm sure there's been others who have gotten a majority of save chances. Um, but that doesn't seem like something that Dan has done in the past. But I think that you know 2024 being the season that things have to change. I would not be surprised at all if it was Stark. I don't know if that would be my pick. I think I would roll in the direction of Koger, just a little bit more experienced. Looked fantastic over the midweek. I really do think that he turned a corner against Lipscomb, and that's probably my guy. But I can definitely be talked into a Ty Stark closer role.
I will say if we see that consistency out of Will Koger for another outing or two, in my opinion, he's your closer. If you've got a guy that can come in and pump 96 and hit the zone and not walk guys and throw away from contact, I think he's your closer at this point in time because I don't think we have a true defined closer on this team, which is something that we've always had. So I think if he can prove that what he did against Lipscomb wasn't just a one off and that's the new Will Koger, make him the closer.
Right. I think I agree. I'm feeling pretty good about Koger. I feel like Karaba could do it too. I think that he's got the pitch ability and the stuff to do it. I think he's had a couple rough outings up to this point. We haven't really seen him in a while either. Um, I do like Karaba though. I do think that he has a late inning role when we get to conference play. Not sure if it's going to be the ninth inning, but I would not be surprised if you see him consistently in that seventh or the eighth inning too.
Yeah, I like Caraba. Like you said, his stats are elevated right now, but I like what he's got. I think he pitches away from contact. He's a high strikeout guy. Actually got the chance to talk to Caraba at one of the games a couple weeks ago. We were down in the bullpen, and he came over and signed my son's hat. So, Jake, if you're listening, huge shout out, big fan of yours. Appreciate you taking time to do that. But I think he's a guy that his numbers are going to get better. I'm not super concerned about that. Coming from the D2 ranks where he did, it takes time. There's an adjustment to it. So I think Jake is going to be just fine. It takes a little bit of time to adjust. It's a different pace. You're throwing against the best of the best. I mean, you're in the ACC, so he's just gonna it'll take a little bit of time for him to get adjusted. So I do want to turn things over to Aaron to give us a little pro cards update. But before I do, one of the big things that's been going on around the stadium this year, and Aaron, you don't know I'm going to do this, but I'm going to put you on the spot, is some of the concession stands and hot dogs and things that they've had this year at Jim Patterson Stadium. So just for the sake of my entertainment, I just want to hear from you. What is your ballpark go-to food at Jim Patterson Stadium or anywhere for that matter?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I'd like to say that I've seen a lot about the hot dogs at Jim Patterson Stadium. I have yet to try one. Not a huge hot dog guy, but I would like to try the hot dog of the week eventually. Um, my go-to ballpark food probably be a good pretzel and cheese. I've always gone to the pretzel. I think that's always been if I'm gonna eat the ballpark, it's probably gonna be a pretzel.
Pretzel and cheese. I like it. I can get behind a pretzel and cheese. Now, things have changed a little bit in our house when we go to games because Caden, he just likes the cheese. So we get the thing of nachos with double cheese, and he'll just take one chip the whole time and just eat the cheese. but never eat a single chip. So we're more of a cheese cup and one chip kind of family now. But if it was up to me, uh, big hot dog guy, I would definitely go for the hot dog, and I would try the one that they've got for the week, depending on what it was. But I will say, Jim Patterson Stadium, they can make a mean hot dog up in there. So if you've never experienced any of those, definitely check out the hot dog of the week and give that a shot because they've got it going on down there. And if you wait long enough, this is important, very important. If you go to Jim Patterson Stadium, and if you wait long enough, when you're leaving the stadium, if they have an excessive amount of hot dogs left, the ladies will be out there with little cardboard boxes full of hot dogs, just handing them out for free as you're leaving the stadium. Has this ever happened to you before?
This has not happened to me.
Okay, so it's happened to us on numerous occasions, and it happened to us last weekend. So we're leaving, and the ladies, she's carrying around her little cardboard box, and just sweet little old lady trying to give hot dogs away. And I see her. So like I intentionally like walk her direction because I don't want to miss this opportunity, right? They're free hot dogs they're handing out. So I intentionally walk over to her and she's like, "Would you like a hot dog?" I was like, "Oh, that's so nice that you asked. I didn't know you were going to do that." Um, and she's like, "I've got two." So here we are. I took one and gave one to gave one to our son. So if you wait long enough and they've got free hot dogs left, hit the gates and you will get yourself a free hot dog as you're leaving the stadium.
That's good to know. Next time I'm there, I'll say Matt Sefcovic sent me for free hot dogs.
If there's none left, I guess just get one and put it on my tab and I'll get you next time. All right. So enough about food. I'm going to get hungry as we sit here. Let's kind of transition over into our final segment, which is the pro cards. I'm assuming at this point in the season we're ramping up. College balls. We're a month into it at this point in time, which means that Major League Baseball is not too far behind. So probably got some stuff going on in your world. So kind of bring us up to speed on all that.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time as always. Spring training is starting to get in the later stages. Guys are starting to get sent down minor league ball, trying to figure out who's going to be rolling out there on opening day. There's not a whole lot going on right now. Adam Duvall notably still remains unsigned. Last I heard, he was receiving the most interest from the Angels and the Red Sox. Still has not received a contract offer. Saw a couple other teams were in on him. Hopefully not too much longer for Adam. Definitely going to miss seeing him play on opening day, but he'll be out there with a major league team at some point this year. So excited to see where he goes. As far as everybody else, Brendan McKay is notably still in camp with the Rays. There's been a lot of cuts already coming out of Rays camp. Brendan McKay remains. He's firmly in the mix for an opening day spot. He did get roughed up a little bit today, but for the most part, he does look pretty solid. And if he is sent down to AAA to start the season, I don't think it'll be too long before he is back up. A couple other guys were sent down recently. Riley Thompson was sent down to minor league camp with the Cubs. Nick Solak sent down to minor league camp with the Mariners. And Tyler Fitzgerald looks like he's pushing for a spot on the Giants opening day roster too. So there's a lot of fluidity in everybody's situations. I was asked a couple times already if I'll be letting everybody know as usual where all the minor league guys land. I know everybody's anxious to see if anybody will come back and come play in Louisville at the AAA Louisville Bats. It'll probably be another couple weeks before I get that thread up and going, but we'll be letting everybody know where everybody's heading to and looking forward to another exciting season.
And if you ever need anything at all, any information regarding cards in the pros, go follow Aaron because he's got everything. He'll put it all on his Twitter feed and does not miss a beat when it comes to this stuff. So he's one of one when it comes to following the cards in the pros. So you won't, if you need information on that or looking for what these guys are doing in their professional careers, he's got it going on for you.
Yep, thank you. And that Twitter page, I'll plug it here right now, is the Louisville Baseball Alumni Report. That's where all the pro guys' information is going to go. And shameless plug again. It's definitely a follow. And I put a lot of time and effort into that, so I definitely appreciate all the support that I get for doing that.
Yeah, definitely go give Aaron a follow for sure. And you can find me on Twitter at Matt Sefcovic. You can find our podcast at Third and Central Pod, and then you can find my written work on Card Chronicle. I do want to close with one thing tonight. This is to all Louisville fans, not just baseball. We're in the middle of a coaching search. Just don't get crazy. Things are going to be wild over the next month. We're going to hear crazy names, then they're going to disappear, and then they're going to come back to our list. Just stay the process. We will have a coach in a matter of time. And Josh Hurd, I'm sure you listened as well. So if you are, just go hire Scott Drew and get this over for all of us. But to end tonight, in the words of Sean Mock, we will see you at the ballpark.